Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. So I'm still at the Toronto Film Festival. This is day 3 for me as of this recording. I've seen 5 films so far and lots more to get to. I wanted to give you a review today of The Testament of Anne Lee from director Mona Fastvold and starring Amanda Seyfried in the title role. This was a film I was very excited about. The Brutalist was one of the best films of 2024. That was the first film I saw at TIFF, like my very first festival here last year. And man, that movie just blew me away, all 3.5 hours of it. I walked out, I said, okay, that is coming for a ton of Oscar nominations. It was really fun to follow the journey of that movie at the Oscars. It, of course, won Best Actor for Adrien Brody. It did very well. And then earlier this year, I heard, oh, we're getting another film from the Brutalist team. This time, instead of Brady Corbet in the director's chair, it's his partner, Mona Fastvold. They co-wrote the script together, and it's another period film, another very ambitious movie, a big swing. This time it's a musical, another great ensemble cast, more amazing cinematography. This one is shorter than The Brutalist. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it just flies by, man. I really enjoyed The Testament of Anne Lee. I'm not going to give any spoilers here. All of my TIFF reviews are spoiler free. I might give you like a little taste of the beginning of the movie, like how it starts, like the basic premise. But don't worry, I won't reveal anything about what happens later on in The Testament of Anne Lee. Now, I apologize in advance that most of this review is going to be on me because there hasn't been a trailer yet. There's been like 2 stills released of this film. There's not much to include in this video review, so it is going to be mostly on me here today. The Testament of Anne Lee, I'm sure it will have a trailer at some point, but as of this recording, I don't think there's a distributor for this movie yet. It might not come out at the end of 2025. I don't know what's going to happen. Last year when it came to The Brutalist, I don't think it had a distributor like at TIFF. A24 came along a few weeks later, and then around October we got a trailer, we got a release date and stuff. I'm hoping that's going to be the case for The Testament of Anne Lee. This is not a perfect film by any means. I had a couple issues with it, as I'll talk about, but it is so wildly ambitious and beautiful to look at, amazing performances. This is absolutely a film you need to see. So I'm hopeful like an A24 comes along in the next few weeks and picks this up. This should be a part of the upcoming award season. I don't know how well it'll do in the top categories. Could this get into Best Picture, Best Director? I'm not sure, but give it a chance. I really hope a distributor comes along and gets this movie out by December. Amanda Seyfried again plays the title role of Anne Lee. At the beginning of the movie, she is in a really dark place. The film is set in the 18th century in Manchester and then later New York, and we get a sense of this time period with gorgeous production design all the way through. When it comes to the rooms and these buildings, there's a boat. There are lots of different places you get to see in this movie, many like exterior shots. And it all feels totally seamless, very real. It is like you are transported back many, many centuries. And Anne Lee strikes up a relationship with a man played by Christopher Abbott. They get married and she gets pregnant and she has 4 children over the course of a few years. And they are all dead before their first birthday. And so early in the film, you really do see this darkness in her world, in her soul, as she tries to reconcile with this reality that she's living in. She doesn't know how to pull herself together. And so about 20 to 30 minutes into the film, she changes her outlook on life and she begins a movement. She turns to God and starts up a religious sect called the Shakers that she leads with many, many people around her. She believes herself to be the female reincarnation of Christ, and she and her followers make a commitment to go toward the light, go toward utopia in all that is necessary, all that they have to do, even though there's going to be enemies, people who fight against them, people who try to take away all of their rights. And Anne Lee, even when she's at her most vocal, finds herself in one challenge after another, and at one point, she's not sure, like, can this work? Can she actually make a change in her life and with all of her followers' lives? But she is always determined to press on and do the best she can. Have I mentioned this is a musical? The Testament of Anne Lee is a musical. There are at least 6, 7, 8 songs in this, many of which are lovely to listen to. And the movie almost always is very serious, sometimes very intense and dark and depressing, that I do think this needed to be a musical, because it does add a little bit of levity at times when you are seeing truly violent, awful images on the screen in certain parts, especially toward the beginning. The songs, like the musical numbers, which are never overly flashy, at most you'll have a musical number where there will be a lot of people in the frame making different kinds of movements. This doesn't come across as your typical musical, I won't suggest it does. Sometimes it's just one character singing alone, by themselves in a room. Often that is Amanda Seyfried. There are also many sections of the film where there's no singing, right? There'll be sometimes 20 minutes of just dialogue scenes and things happening in the plots where you're expecting a song to begin soon and then it doesn't. So don't go into The Testament of Anne Lee thinking you're going to get a song and dance number every 5 minutes. That's not what this movie is. The songs really inform the characters, informs the movement of the Shakers, and brings this lovely sense of harmony to even the most dire moments for this group and for Anne Lee. I'm very happy that Mona Fastvold and company decided to make this a musical. I think it would have been too much if it was just done straight, just with dialogue and no other kind of flourishes like these musical scenes, which allows really interesting cinematography, some lovely songs, at least 2 that I was really going over and over again in my head walking out of the theater. It's not the kind of songs you're going to be humming to yourself for days on end. This is not like that. But there are some haunting moments in this film when it comes to the musical nature of it that I have not been able to shake in the many hours now since I first watched the movie. I keep thinking about this one. I've seen a few other films at TIFF. I have liked or loved everything I've watched so far. I hope that stays true in the days to come. But even though I had a couple problems with The Testament of Anne Lee, I can already tell this is going to be one of the few movies I see this week that really sticks with me long after I've gone home. Part of it is the luscious cinematography all the way through. They shot this on film on 35mm and then blew it up to 70mm, which is kind of what they did with The Brutalist, and just the texture of these two films, by this couple, Mona Fastvold and Brady Corbet. I just love it. I love the look of these movies. You feel like you're there, in a way. There's nothing phony or artificial you're watching on the screen. It just all feels right there in a way that digital never can really get across. Films like The Brutalist and The Testament of Anne Lee, you're an hour in and you want to scream out loud, cinema, cinema. I had a couple moments in The Testament of Anne Lee, some really magnificent shots in this where I was just wow, this looks so beautiful. This is so great. And, there's been nice shots in other films I've seen so far this week, but nothing quite like the cinematography in The Testament of Anne Lee. The music, the score in this is so incredible. Daniel Blumberg, who scored The Brutalist, he is back with The Testament of Anne Lee, and he has knocked another one out of the park. You really feel his presence very early in the film, and then even beyond the songs, which I think are great, also the score in certain moments, some of the most dramatic moments, they really pop off the screen. His work, yet again, is brilliant and is deserving of another Oscar nomination. Speaking of Oscar nominations, Amanda Seyfried in the title role. Amanda Seyfried is an actress I have adored ever since Mean Girls, right? 2004. She's been around for more than 2 decades. I've enjoyed her in many films. Jennifer's Body and Mamma Mia. And then, of course, she got an Oscar nomination and Best Supporting Actress for Mank 2020, which wasn't guaranteed. I think she missed a couple places, but then she did get the Oscar nomination. I was so happy about that. Here she is finally in the running for her first Best Actress Oscar nomination. If this movie, The Testament of Anne Lee, comes out by December through a good studio and they give it a push, I think Seyfried can get in. Even if the movie were to miss in Best Picture, that's possible, I think Amanda Seyfried can still make it into Best Actress because this is the best she's ever been. She is all over this movie. There's maybe 5 or 6 scenes that she's not a part of. for the most part, especially in the first hour, it's like all her all the time. And she attacks this character with everything she has. Her moments of singing often take your breath away. Her moments when she's just quiet and reflecting and not a whole lot is happening in the scene. She is always fascinating to watch. And the arc of Ann Lee throughout this movie is very fascinating. There's so many interesting aspects to the character. And while watching this movie a few hours ago, I was like, I think she was perfect for this role. She's the right age, the right look for this character, and she gives Ann Lee so much complexity all the way through. Even in those moments where she's very confident, she's leading this movement, you can still see like the touch of vulnerability in her, where she might not be sure exactly what her next move is going to be, but she's going to try. She's going to do everything she can to push past her own fears, the adversity of everything she's been through in her life, and try to be the person she knows deep down she is meant to be, a leader. This is a very emotional performance at times, especially in the early scenes. Like, there are some moments I almost had to turn away. It's so traumatic, it's so awful, and she is like willing to put herself out there, her body out there in this movie. It's a very courageous performance from an actress who has done really good work before, of course, as I mentioned, but never anything quite like this. This is a different Amanda Seyfried than you've ever seen before, and I thought she was spectacular in this movie. There's a really good ensemble cast in this beyond Seyfried. You have some really wonderful performances, like from Christopher Abbott. Tim Blake Nelson is very good. Lewis Pullman has a lot to do in this movie. I don't know if The Testament of Ann Lee ever gives Lewis Pullman like a moment to shine. I was waiting for that because he is in a lot of it, and he's kind of an up-and-comer who's been doing some good work the last few years. I was waiting for like his big scene. It never really comes. The true standout is Amanda Seyfried. If anyone in this cast can get an Oscar nomination, it's her. Now, I wouldn't call this a masterpiece. It's not going to be like one of my top 2 or 3 films of the festival, I think. I'm not giving this a 10 out of 10, and I'm not even giving it a 9. I had some issues with the second half. I think the first hour works almost perfectly. Like, it's beautifully done, like everything with the cinematography, the score, the acting, the pacing of the narrative, like the intertwining scenes of drama and emotion with the musical numbers, with the songs. It's all working really well for the first half, I'd say. And I won't give away anything that happens in the second half. I won't tell you anything about the plots. But it does start to lose focus, I think, in the final 45 minutes to an hour. The narrative does start to get repetitive toward the end. Some scenes start to feel familiar and, too close to other scenes that have already happened in the film. There aren't too many big surprises in the second half. I kind of knew after a certain point where things were headed. The first half feels more fresh, more alive, more unpredictable, and then things start to slow down in the second half. We move away from Ann Lee at certain times to other characters, sometimes really minor characters. One does give us a moment of humor, a moment of levity later on that I appreciated, and I got a big laugh, and that was nice because you don't really laugh very much in this movie. You're just sitting there, kind of clenching your fists, like, oh my God, what's going to happen next, So any moments of humor in this are appreciated, and I like those. But I don't know, toward the end, I wasn't giving myself completely over to the movie the way I wanted to, the way I expected to. The movie didn't make me cry ever. Toward the end, I was expecting a big emotional catharsis or something, and it doesn't really give you that. And not that every movie has to make me cry, to give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10 or something, but because this film is so emotional at times, especially in the first hour, I kind of thought we were going to lead to something big, something really memorable toward the end, and I don't think The Testament of Ann Lee quite gives you that, even though this film is very much worth seeing. I'm still giving it a high score. I really loved a lot of this. It did leave me wanting a little bit more toward the end. It's long, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I don't want it to be The Brutalist. I didn't need another hour plus. I did feel like in the last half hour, we could have had a few more scenes of Ann Lee, a few more moments with her, realizing everything that's come before, the immense weight of her backstory, everything that she's been through, the good and mostly the bad. I thought that would lead to some huge emotional releases toward the end for the audience. And there's a moment toward the end that I thought worked well, in terms of its emotion, but not as much as I was hoping for. So it's really the first half of the film I think is brilliant, I think is really incredible. And then the second half is solid. It's really good, not great, I would say. So there's still a ton to recommend about The Testament of Anne Lee. I am very hopeful that this gets a distributor, that you all get to see it in the months to come. Again, I do think this could be a big Oscar contender. It is possible, I would say, for Best Picture, maybe. I don't think Best Director, Screenplay possibly, the tech categories, I would say score for sure, cinematography, everything to do with the look of this movie, the production design, that would be worthy of an Oscar nomination. The one that would make me the happiest, of course, would be Best Actress for Amanda Seyfried. I think she's worthy of getting into Best Actress all throughout the season, especially at the Oscars. And if this movie comes out by December through a really good studio, they put it out there, they market it, they get it to enough people, they get enough passion to surround this film, I do think Amanda Seyfried could get into Best Actress, and I would be thrilled. I think she deserves it. So The Testament of Anne Lee should be coming to a theater near you at some point, hopefully, by December. And when that day comes, I very much recommend that you check this out. If you are an adventurous filmgoer, you're open to different kinds of things, this is going to be a divisive film. There's going to be people who just aren't up for this film. It's kind of weird, it's offbeat, it's out there. But if you are adventurous and you're willing to take on something a little bit different, wildly ambitious, with a great lead performance by an amazing actress at the top of her game, check out The Testament of Anne Lee. I think it is really quite something. I give this film an 8 out of 10.